Asian University of Bangladesh is conducting classes online, and I would like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor of Asian University of Bangladesh, Emeritus Professor Dr. Abul Hassan Mohammad Sadek, for instructing us and giving us proper guidelines about online classes. In the continuation of this, we are conducting this class. Today, I'm going to talk about backwash and how we can achieve beneficial washback. This video is powered by Click the Class, and this video is prepared for Asian University of Bangladesh for the students of English department. Dear audience, we are going to discuss backwash or washback. You can interchange the term backwash or washback, both are correct today. So, and we shall be talking about how we can achieve it, how we can achieve beneficial washback. So, dear audience, now I'm going to talk about backwash or washback and how we can achieve beneficial washback. Well, this discussion is going to cover what washback is, then kinds of washback, then achieving beneficial washback. In achieving beneficial washback, we'll be covering test the ability whose development you want to encourage, sampled widely and unpredictably, use direct testing, make testing criterion referenced, base achievement test on objective, ensure that test is known and understood by students and teachers, and finally, where necessary, provide assistance to the teachers. That means we will be talking about what washback is and how we can achieve beneficial washback. And there are several stages there are several points of which we have to cover for getting beneficial washback. Now, in the introduction, we would like to say what washback is actually. The effect of teaching and learning is known as washback or backwash. The effect of test on teaching and learning is backwash or washback. That means a test always has some impact on teaching and learning process, like how we will be reading, what we will be reading, what knowledge we have to gather, for what purpose we have to gather the knowledge. These all things actually depends on how I am designing the examination. Like now, what we see that if we think that we'll be introducing listening and speaking test from next year in SSC and HSC level, you will see that teachers are teaching listening speaking in the classroom and learners are also practicing listening and speaking. Why? Because from the next year, there will be listening and speaking test in SSC and HSC examination in Bangladesh, what is not introduced yet whatsoever. So there will be some radical changes in teaching and learning process. So like that, backwash has a very important effect on teaching and learning activities both, because the teacher will be planning how to teach in the class because the examination is demanding this area to cover, and learners are also will be feeling interested to cover those areas because these are important for the examination. So this effect of test on teaching and learning is known as washback. Washback is now seen as a part of impact a test may have on learners and teachers, on education system in general, and on the society. That means backwash has a huge impact on teaching system and learning system both, and on education system as well in general. As I said, that if you could include listening and speaking test in SSC HSC level, student will be bound to practice listening and speaking skills, what is not very much visible in this system now, in the current system. So if you include some new ideas or new items or new topic in the test, teachers and learners equally tries to learn those activities, learn those knowledge, learn those tasks for their examination purpose. and it has an impact on society as well, because whenever the washback effect is large, the whole society changes. Like you'll see that when an education system changes, an examination system changes, it has a bigger impact on the education system and on the society as well. So kinds of washback. Kinds of washback: positive washback or beneficial washback, negative washback or harmful washback. There are two types basically: positive or negative, beneficial or harmful washback. So what are these actually washback? Why these washbacks are divided into two parts? Let's have a look at this. Beneficial washback or positive washback is actually when students are studying more, keeping in mind that they have an examination and they have to do well in the examination, and they accelerate their studies focusing on the examination. This is positive washback. That means if students feel interested, if students feel encouraged to cover the areas and cover everything because of the examination and examination system and because of the test itself, then this is called beneficial washback. And negative washback is also present in our examination because of our examination system. Like if you want to know a student's writing ability, and if you set the question in MCQ, then it might be a negative washback, because students will be trying to learn MCQs, the answer from MCQs, rather than learning or practicing the writing skill itself. Students will be focusing on writing MCQ rather than writing skill itself. So it is a kind of negative washback. So these are two kinds of backwash. But the most important thing here is achieving beneficial washback. That means how we can use the test to accelerate the learners' learning, to help the learners to learn more, to study more, focusing on the examination. That means there is an examination, student has to cover everything, student has to learn more, student to study more. So examination itself could be used as a tool for acceleration of the learning procedure. So we shall try to focus on these areas, how we can achieve beneficial washback, as it is very important. If we could use this term washback for improving the learning qualities and accelerating their learning rate, it would be a huge success for both the end, for the teachers and for the learners as well. So especially for the teachers, teachers can use test as the tool for accelerating the learning activities of the students. So let's see how we can achieve beneficial washback. Number one, test the abilities whose development you want to encourage. That means we have to test those abilities that development you want to encourage. Like if you want if you want your students to improve their speaking ability, give some test on them. Take some speaking test. Get them to speak and rate them and tell them what is their problems. Note down their problems and discuss the problems with them and tell them that you have done well, but you have some more rooms for improvement. So students will be preparing again and sit for another examination, and this time the improvement will be visible. We may find some more problems in his speaking, and then we have to note them down, and we have to discuss the problems with the students and tell him or her that you have done really well, but you have some more space for improvement in these areas. So student will be preparing themselves for doing better, and they will be improving those areas. And when we'll take another examination, we'll find that students are doing well. So the skill we want to improve, we have to test them over and over, and by doing that we can get beneficial washback. And number 2, sample widely and unpredictably. So whenever we are giving a test to the students, we must make sure that the sample we are taking from the specified area are wide and unpredictable, so that student cannot assume or student cannot predict that these are the questions are going to be in the examination or in the question. So they will be only focusing on those areas. So if we could make the sample wide and unpredictable, student will be bound to study whole syllabus, and by doing that we can achieve beneficial washback, because then students will know all the topics from the course outline or from the syllabus. So whenever we are testing the students, we must ensure that we are putting questions from all over the specified area or from all over the course outline or syllabus. So this is, whenever we are taking test, we must ensure the samples are wide and unpredictable. Number 3, use direct testing. Make test criterion referenced. We have to use direct testing and make test criterion referenced. So direct testing is when you want to test something, you get your students to do that activities exactly. Well, use direct testing and make test criterion reference. These are 2 very important ways for making a test beneficial or achieving beneficial washback. Like, you have to use the testing method directly, and number 2, making test criterion reference. I'm coming to that. First of all, I'd like to talk about direct testing. Direct testing is a test by which we understand by which we want to know the authentic ability of or performance of the students. Like, direct testing implies the testing of performance skill, which text and task and authentic as possible, which makes text and task as authentic as possible. If we test directly the skill that we are interested of fostering, then practice for the test participate in those skills. That means if we want people to learn to write compositions, we should get them to write composition. That means in a direct testing, if you want to know a student's ability in speaking, you get them to speak. If you want to know a student's writing ability, you get them to write. If you want to know the composition writing ability of a student, get them to write composition. Then it will be easier for you to judge whether they are proficient in writing composition, or they're proficient in writing, or they're proficient in speaking. By direct testing, we ensure in a way, because the preparation will occur on that target area. That means if you want students to speak well, so students will also practice on speaking activities, because they have to sit for the examination in speaking. So they'll be preparing themselves for improving their speaking. But if you take indirect test, students might not be focusing on that skill. If they do not know what to answer directly, then their preparation will not be occurring on speaking. So we have to ensure that students the examination we are taking is direct. That means the skill I want to know, about of the students, I have to ask questions. I have to take questions from those areas. Like if I want to know about students' ability in writing, I have to get them to write. This is direct testing. But if you want to know a student's writing ability and you are asking him to read a newspaper and for skimming and scanning and inferencing, then it might not work the way a direct test works, and the way students will be preparing for their examination in a direct testing. And number two, that is in number two, make testing criteria referenced. Criteria reference means setting a standard, setting the criteria for the proficiency level. That means you have to test as students against those criteria that has been set, which has been same all over the world. Like you can say, you can set some criteria for the test, and those criteria you have to test student ability against those criteria. That means you have to set some rubrics, or you can set some scale that this is the level you have to complete. And if you could ensure, if the students could ensure that they have completed the criteria, then we can say that these students is proficient. So if we could make the test criterion referenced, then we have better chances of achieving beneficial washback. All right, so now we'll go to the next point for achieving beneficial washback, and that is base achievement test on objective. Base achievement test on objectives. In achievement test are based on, if achievement tests are based on objective rather than on a detailed teaching and textbook content, they will provide a truer picture of what has actually been achieved. Teaching and learning will tend to be evaluated against those objectives. As a result, there will be constant pressure to achieve them. Okay, so if we could make sure that the achievement test, that means what has been arranged at the end of the semester or at the end of the year. So if we could make achievement test based on objective of the course, we have better chances of achieving beneficial washback, because students will be focusing on the objective of the course. That means in the course outline, we always give an objective of the course. That means the whole idea, what a students has to be able to do to achieve that goal, to achieve that objective. That means the objective, if the objective is in front of them, they will be continuously working on to achieve that objective. And if we make questions from that objectives, if we take the achievement test on the basis of objective of the course, then we shall get better, we shall have better chances for achieving beneficial washback. That means students will be studying, focusing on the objective of the course, and that objective means if he knows the objective, he is actually successful, because if he could fulfill the objective of the course, he will be considered as a successful learner. So so we have to make sure whenever we are designing a test, designing a question paper, we must focus, or we must give some emphasis on the objective of the course. What is the objective of the course? You have to you have to set questions against the objective of the course, objective of the course. And then number 5, ensure understanding of the test. That means the test has to be understood and well known by the teachers and the students or the stakeholders who are involved with the testing procedure. That means the test has to be well known and understood by the teacher and students. We may ensure some model test. We may ensure some sample questions for the students so that they have a very clear picture what they have to able to do. It's not you are telling them the questions, exact questions, but you are giving the guidelines. How will the question paper look like, or what is its contents, like whether it will be a subjective examination or an objective examination. If it is a subjective examination, how many questions they have to answer, and it will be there will be any option or not, you must tell it to the students clearly so that they can prepare themselves well. We should not keep anything hidden from the students. We should make things clear that how their examination will look like, which is related with face validity. If you bring some topic, or if you give some topics in the examination which is not known, which is out of the content, that test might not be considered as a valid question. Like that, it is very important for the teachers to ensure the students knows about the pattern of the question, how the question will be looking like, what is the content, how many questions they have to answer, how many parts are there. If there is several parts, you must ensure that they know how many times has been allocated, how much time has been allocated for each portion of the question. So these are the things you have to make sure that student knows about these things to get beneficial washback. Otherwise, students will not be able to take good preparation for the examination, and maybe achieving beneficial washback will be hampered. So the examination has to be understood by the teacher and students. Another important thing about the teaching side, the teacher also needs to know what are the things that will be given in the examination. All right, now final stage of achieving beneficial washback is provide assistance if necessary. That means teachers or staff has to be given assistance, and if necessary, we have to arrange some training session for the assistants, what they have to be able to what they have to do in an examination. That means teachers also, it is the responsibility of the authority to keep the teachers also up to date for achieving beneficial washback. That means a teacher needs to know whenever a new system or new procedure is introduced, it is very important to train the teacher and assist the teachers with the knowledge that is required for achieving beneficial washback. So these were the stages by which we could achieve beneficial washback. Now, I'm going to talk about the whole thing, especially achieving beneficial washback stages a bit more elaborately. So it was at a glance. Now we shall start the new slides, and we shall talk about these issues more elaborately. Let's have a look at this. Test the abilities whose development you want to encourage. I have already focused on this topic. Now let's get started with the main points. There is a tendency to test what is easiest to test rather than what is important to test. That means normally we try to test those abilities, or we try to test very simply the easiest ones, rather testing the important ones. Like I have given an example that we do not usually test listening and speaking in SSC HSC level, and we just test the students' ability in writing and some reading, because we know it is very difficult to test listening and speaking, and you need to have skilled teachers and some technical support for testing listening and speaking. That's why we avoid listening and speaking and test the easiest ones, but it should not be done for achieving beneficial workback. We have to test those areas, we have to test those skills, that development we want. Like if we want the development of the students in speaking ability, we must get them to speak, and we must take tests over and over to make sure that we are testing the skill that we want to encourage. That means if you keep testing on those areas, then students will be studying more, students will be practicing more for improving their skill in speaking. Then number 2, certain abilities should be tested and given sufficient ways in relation to others. So we have to test abilities, and we must give sufficient relation to others, the way they have to learn. Certain abilities should be tested and given sufficient weight in relation to others. That means we have to weight those skill according to the importance of the skill. That means if you test 4 skills, listening, speaking, reading, writing, with 100 marks, if you feel that speaking is the most important part of these 4 skills, then give some more weight to speaking. Like you can give 40% of the marks for speaking. Then students will be bound, or students have to cover speaking areas, because without doing well in speaking, they cannot do well in this course. So they will be studying those skill. That means the abilities that we feel more important, we should put more weight to those skill. The next, let's see. So what is the next? So what we see here, that and now we shall talk about sample widely and unpredictably. We have given you idea how we have to sample the test and what are the ways to do this. So sample widely and unpredictably. It is important that the sample taken from represent as far as possible the full scope of what is specified. That means we shall have to take samples from all parts of the syllabus. It has to cover all the parts of the syllabus, and it has to be unpredictable as well. Let's see whether whenever the content of the test becomes teaching and learnings are likely to be considered what can be predicted. So whenever the content of the test becomes very predictable, it becomes very difficult for the students. It becomes easy for the students to gauge or to predict what is going to come. So backwash effect actually falls on those topics only. That means if the students knows that these are the things I have to answer in the question in the examination, the students will be preparing themselves with those topics only. They will not be studying other topics in the course. So we have to, if we want to get beneficial washback, we must ensure the test is widely sampled and unpredictably and the question is unpredictable enough, so that they do not understand or they do not guess, they cannot guess what is going to come. So that they have to cover whole areas, they have to cover the whole topic from the course outline. And then we are coming to the next one, use direct testing. We have spoken about this. The direct testing is very important for the skill that we want to know as authentically as possible. That means by direct testing, we can we know whether the students is able to perform the particular skill. That means if you want to know a student's ability, on speaking, then you must get him to speak in the examination. If you want to know a student's ability in writing, you have to get him write in the examination. If we test directly the skill that we are interested in fostering, the practice for the test representative practice in those skills. So here we have to ensure that the skill we want to emphasize on, we must put the question paper, or we must give the task according to the desire of the teachers. That means if a teacher wants to improve writing ability, he must give writing activities in his examination, and then the students will be bound to practice on writing activities. If a teacher wants to know students reading activities, so in the question paper he must put the questions from reading activities, so students will be directly working on reading activities to prove himself in the examination. So this is direct testing. And then finally, when we begin to test indirectly, we are removing an intensive for students to practice the way that we want them to do. That means if we cannot make the test direct, then the incentive that we have from the students, that we can make them bound working on that, we lose that. Because now if we do not test them directly, that the question might come from anywhere, so they will not be concentrating only on those activities. Like if you want them to practice more speaking activities, and if they do not get questions from speaking, they will ignore speaking activities, and teachers will lose the grip on the students. They will not be practicing speaking. Now they will be studying something else which is related to the examination. So if we could make test direct, we have more grip on the students to make them practice that skill that we desire that our students will be able to perform. Going for the next, make testing criterion reference. We have also spoken about this, that in the specification, in test specification, make clear just what candidates have to be able to do with what degrees of success. The student will have a clear picture of what they have to do and what they have to achieve. Okay, so if we could make the test criterion referenced, then the teachers, students will have a very clear picture what criteria they have to fulfill, and they will be feeling encouraged to fulfill that criteria. And number two, the possibility exists of having a series of criterion reference tests, each representing a different level of achievement or proficiency. So there is a possibility of having series of criterion reference tests, and it will be representing different levels of achievement. That means what they will be achieving for this, and what they have to achieve for that. That means they will be aware of what degree of success they have to achieve for considering themselves, or being considered as a successful candidate for this course or for this examination. And then if you go back to number 3, criterion-based tests are useful for in directing how a gap of learners are progressing as they compare candidates against a standard rather than each other. So in a criterion reference test is very effective, and it is very helpful to get beneficial watchback, because in a criterion reference test, you are not actually comparing the students of the class. You are not comparing one student with another students of the class. You are actually comparing the students with a standard, and you are comparing a student against that standard set by the educationist or set by the expert. Like in IELTS examination, there is a standard set by the British Council, and you have to achieve that standard to be considered as a successful candidate. So the criteria you can fulfill, you will be considered as the student of that level. That means a student will be evaluated against the standard, no matter what other students are doing. So this is making testing criterion reference, and by making the testing criterion reference, we can achieve beneficial washback. Base achievement test on objective. This is also we have discussed in the first part. Now let us have a look at this. Achievement tests are based on objective rather than on detailed teaching and textbook content. They provide a truer picture of what has already been achieved. That means if we test students keeping in mind the objective of the course, then we have to set the questions against the objective. So as if a student wants to achieve the objective of the course, and if he is successful doing that, he will be considered as a successful learner. That means if the final achievement test or progress achievement test, whatever test we test, if we keep that in mind, then this is my objective. Student has to reach this goal or objective, and if we could arrange the test based on achievement test on objective, then we may consider that the student is successful, because at the end of the day, actually students is able to achieve the goal of the course. That means he is successful if he can achieve the goal. So when we are making questions as a teacher, we have to keep in mind what is the objective of the course, and we have to put questions against the objective of the course. That means the things which are important in the objective of the course, we shall have to put questions in those areas or in those topics. The students have to cover all the things which has been included in the objective of the course. And then finally, and then the next one, ensure that test is known and understood by the students and teacher. Let's see. The positive effects will not be fully realized if students and those responsible for teaching do not know and understand what the test demands of them, rationale of the test, its specification, and sample items. That means if you want to ensure beneficial washback, the test has to be understood by the teacher, by the students, by the stakeholders who will be working with that. That means if the students do not know what they have to perform, there is very little possibility for them to do well in the examination. So it is the responsibility of the teachers to make things clear to the students that you have to do this, you have to perform this. The students need to have an idea about the examination system, whether it is subjective test or objective test. If objective test, how many objectives they have to answer, or if it is subjective test, how many questions they have to answer out of what. That means how many questions will be there and how many they have to answer. So these are the things has to be clear and understandable. Student has to know about the questions, and if necessary, we may give some sample test to them. We can give some sample to the students so that they will be practicing on those sample, and like matching the sample, they will have to answer the question in the actual examination. It's not that you will be giving the question paper to them. It's about letting them know about the examination system. Okay, so we have to train the student if we introduce anything new, then we have to clear what they have to do and how they will be doing. That means giving a clear idea about the question paper, how many parts are there. If more than one part, then what proportion of time will be allocated for each part. So these are the things it has to be clear, has to be made clear to the students. Okay. Then finally, where necessary, provide assistance to the teacher. If you need and if you feel that the testing system is new, the whole things is new, you must arrange some training session, provide some assistance to the teacher, because a lack of knowledge may cause chaos and dissatisfaction. Because if a teacher do not know what to do and how to do, then it becomes very difficult for them to handle all the things, to manage all the things. So first of all, teachers needs to be trained up. If we introduce any new kinds of test, like we have seen the creative question paper in Bangladesh. So as student did not have a clear idea, as student did not know about the things, it was very difficult for them in the initial level, but later they understood and they could perform. So if necessary, we have to provide assistance to the teacher, we have to provide assistance to the staff who will be involving with the whole examination system. Where new tests are meant to help change teaching, support has to be given to help effective teaching. So we have spoken about this, that if we introduce anything new, we have to support, we have to train the teachers and assist the teachers and help them to know about the whole procedure. And by teaching them, by supporting them, by training them up, we can ensure beneficial washback, because then they will be able to know what they have to do, and they will be know how they have to perform. So this was all about beneficial washback, achieving beneficial washback and washback. Thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you all for your patience hearing. I would like to request you to go to Click the Class for more videos like this, and subscribe the channel. Thank you very much.